What if I told you the greatest moments in baseball history didn't always come with fireworks or fanfare, but with a swing, a stare, or a sprint that quietly redefined what was possible? This isn't a list of stats. It's a journey through the lives of icons who bent the game to their will. Players who didn't just break records, they made us believe those records never should have existed in the first place. From a teenager with a perfect swing to a closer who turned the ninth inning into a locked vault. These are the legends who left more than numbers behind. They left fingerprints on the soul of baseball. You've heard the names, but do you know why they still matter? Let's find out. You can't talk about greatness in baseball without confronting the paradox at the heart of it. How a game defined by failure can still create immortals. This is a sport where batting point .300 means you fail 7 times out of 10, where even the most dominant pitchers lose control, and where time, injury, and burnout erase most careers before they ever fully bloom. And yet, every once in a while, a player comes along who not only thrives in that chaos but rewrites what we believe is possible. We're not just talking about all-stars here. We're talking about players who became the blueprint. Icons whose numbers aren't just on the back of jerseys, they're etched into baseball's DNA. But numbers alone don't tell the full story. What makes a player legendary isn't just WAR or home runs or gold gloves. It's what they represent. Their ability to dominate an era, change a franchise, or inspire generations by simply being who they are. This video isn't just a stat sheet of baseball's best. It's a journey through the lives and legacies of players who defined, elevated, and sometimes even defied the sport itself. Some did it with power, some with precision, some with personality that never fit into any box. But all of them left something behind that numbers can't measure a story. And the first of those stories begins not with a record-breaking slugger or a fireballing pitcher, but with a man whose quiet obsession with contact turned him into a baseball machine. Ichiro Suzuki didn't arrive in MLB until he was 27 in age, when many players are already settling into who they are. But from the moment he stepped into the batter's box in 2001, everything changed. That year, he didn't just win Rookie of the Year. He won MVP. He helped the Seattle Mariners win 116 games, tying the all-time single-season record. He didn't power his way there. He surgically placed hits with an elegance and control the league hadn't seen before. In 2004, he broke a record most people thought would stand forever, George Sisler's single-season hit mark of 257. Ichiro finished with 262. But what's more stunning is how he got there. He didn't fluke in the hot streaks or pad his stats. Late in blowouts, he beat pitchers to first base with a swing and sprint motion that redefined what a single could be. He turned ground balls into chaos, weak contact into warfare, and every time he stepped into the box, he brought with him the rhythm of Japanese baseball, its discipline, its calm, its philosophy. That influence changed the game, not just for Asian players, but for how scouts, coaches, and teams viewed contact hitting in a power-obsessed era. Ichiro wasn't flashy, but he was relentless. 10 straight seasons with 200-plus hits, 10 straight gold gloves, 10 straight all-star appearances. If you include his NPB totals, he has more hits than Pete Rose, and even if you don't, he's still over 3,000. He played until he was 45, not to prove he still had it, but because the game was still his art. Ichiro didn't chase glory. He chased perfection, and in doing so, he built a legacy not on force, but on finesse. If Ichiro represented the art of baseball grace, repetition, and surgical precision, then Ripken Jr. was its iron core, the beating heart that refused to stop, no matter how hard or how long the grind became. In an age where players are held out of lineups for the slightest soreness, Ripken Jr. did the unthinkable. He showed up every day for over 16 years straight. His 2,630 to consecutive games played is more than a record. It's a monument to durability, to willpower, to a kind of old-school baseball faith that seems almost alien now. Ripken wasn't a flash-in-the-pan talent or a one-season wonder. He was reliable. He was elite, and he was always there. He started his career with the 1982 Rookie of the Year award and followed it up by winning MVP at just 22, leading the entire league in hits, doubles, and WAR that season. And then he just kept going for 2 decades. His stats alone are impressive: 353 home runs as a shortstop, a rare feat in an era where shortstops were expected to be slick fielding singles hitters, not power threats. 8 silver sluggers to MVPs, a career average of nearly 5.0 WAR per season, and just 1 missed All-Star game in 20 full seasons. But what made Ripken special wasn't just that he played every day, it's that he excelled every day. His greatness wasn't punctuated by viral moments, it was layered, built, and earned over years of quiet domination. In 1991, in his second MVP season, he posted a career-best 11.5 WAR, a number so high it's still in the top 10 for any single season, and he did it not with raw athleticism, but with an intuitive understanding of the game. He adjusted his swing, he adapted his fielding, he worked smarter, not just harder. When Ripken finally broke Lou Gehrig's consecutive game record on September 6, 1995, the baseball world didn't just cheer, they stood. Players, fans, umpires, everyone knew they were witnessing something that may never be done again. And they were right. In today's MLB, Ripken's streak is unthinkable. Pitchers are babied. Star players are load managed. Teams play the long game, but Ripken played the game day in, day out, in the face of injury, in the face of fatigue, in the face of time. He didn't just redefine the shortstop position, he redefined commitment. And by doing so, he became one of the rare players whose greatness didn't just shine, it endured. From relentless consistency to overwhelming force, Ripken showed us how to endure. But Nolan Ryan taught us how to dominate. If Ripken was the heartbeat of baseball, Ryan was his thunderclap every time he stepped onto the mound. He brought the storm with him. His fastball wasn't just fast, it was violence in motion. It stayed violent forever. Across an unfathomable 27 seasons, Nolan Ryan redefined what it meant to overpower hitters. He didn't nibble the corners. He didn't finesse. He attacked, and that aggression earned him one of the most untouchable records in all of sports: 5,714 career strikeouts. Let that number sink in. Nearly 1,000 more than the next closest man. It's not a gap, it's a canyon. And it's not just about strikeouts. Ryan also threw 7 no-hitters, the most in MLB history. He did it across 3 decades. He was 44 years old when he tossed his last one. For perspective, some pitchers are out of the league by 30. Ryan was still throwing gas deep into middle age. But here's the twist. He was never perfect. In fact, he holds another record, the most walks in MLB history, over 1,700 free passes. Ryan was wild, unpredictable, sometimes infuriating, but when he was on, there was no one like him. He led the league in strikeouts 11 times. He had 6 seasons with over 300 kiloseconds. His career era, a solid 3.199 historic, but earned the hard way in high leverage innings against some of the best hitters ever. What's most remarkable isn't just the raw numbers, it's the era-spanning longevity. Ryan faced hitters who grew up watching him pitch. He struck out Hall of Famers who debuted decades after his own rookie season. He didn't evolve with the game. He forced the game to adapt to him. And let's be real, he never needed a Cy Young to validate what the world already knew. Nolan Ryan was a walking highlight reel, a power pitcher who never lost his power. He didn't win a lot of hardware. He didn't always win the duel. But when you stepped into the box against him, you knew who had the advantage, and that presence, that fear, is something that stats can't measure. Ryan didn't just pitch. He intimidated. He exhausted. He lasted, and in doing so, he became more than a pitcher. He became the embodiment of baseball's most primal battle, man versus batter. And more often than not, Ryan won. But while Nolan Ryan carved his legend with brute force and searing velocity, Rickey Henderson broke the game wide open with something far subtler: chaos. Not the kind of chaos that comes from errors or misplays, but chaos engineered with intention. Rickey didn't just run, he disrupted. He didn't just lead off, he detonated at the top of the lineup. And what he did to pitchers and catchers can only be described as psychological warfare. Imagine facing a guy who might steal any base at any moment, and you knew it, and you still couldn't stop him. That's Rickey. His numbers are staggering. 1,406 career stolen bases. That's not just a record. It's a dimension. It's nearly 500 more than the second-place total. And in 1982, he stole 130 in a single season. Modern teams don't even steal 130 combined. But here's what makes Rickey transcend the stat sheet. He wasn't just speed. He was timing, instinct, power. He leads MLB in career runs scored with 2,195. He hit 81 leadoff home runs, most ever. He wasn't just a base thief, he was a tone setter. He walked over 1,100 times. His OBP hovered over .40 for most of his career. And if he got on base, the inning belonged to him. He controlled pace. He rewrote pressure. And pitchers hated it. Watching Rickey lead off was like watching a lion circle a herd. The pitcher knew he was coming. The catcher knew. The defense knew. And no one could stop it. But Rickey wasn't just a force of nature, he knew he was. He famously declared, "I am the greatest of all time," after breaking Lou Brock's stolen base record. And the thing is, he was right. That confidence, that self-mythologizing, it wasn't arrogance. It was prophecy. By the time he retired, Rickey had over 3,000 hits, more than 1,100 RBIs, and a career WAR over 111, 14th all-time for any position player. And here's the kicker. If all you measured was the first pitch of the game, Rickey might still be the most dangerous player in history. He made every at-bat feel like a trap. Every pitcher, no matter how great, knew he could be unraveled by one man at first. In an era that now devalues the stolen base, Rickey's records aren't just safe, they're sacred. They're from a time when baseball was a battlefield, and Rickey Henderson was a one-man ambush. Rickey Henderson ruled the basepaths, but Ted Williams ruled the batter's box. And not with brute strength or sneaky bunts, but with the purest, most analytical swing the game has ever known. If baseball is a game of failure, then Ted Williams spent his career daring failure to catch up, and for the most part it never did. Williams wasn't just a great hitter. He was the hitter, the one players, coaches, and sabermetricians still obsess over. He didn't guess. He calculated. He studied. He understood the science of hitting long before there were high-speed cameras and spin rate charts, and his numbers reflected. A career batting average of .3 for 4, a career OBP of .48 to still the best in MLB history, a career OPS of 1.116. In a modern age, that's video game territory. And here's the part that breaks your brain. He lost 3 prime seasons to World War II. That's not a sabbatical or an injury break. That's missing 3 of the most productive years any player could ask for, and he still put up Hall of Fame numbers by the halfway point of his career. In 1941, at 22 years old, Williams did what no one has done since he batted .406. People don't even talk about .40 anymore. We celebrate .330 like it's a miracle Williams made for a 100-look routine. And he did it while walking 147 times and slugging 37 home runs. It wasn't just contact. It was contact with authority. He led the league in batting average 6 times, in OBP 12 times, in slugging 9. He didn't just have a good eye, he had a philosophy. He once said, "A good hitter has to hit the ball hard and with authority and swing at a good pitch to hit." And that wasn't just a quote. That was his religion. He stood at the plate like a mathematician with a bat, reducing pitches to variables. And when the numbers added up, he punished them. Yet for all his brilliance, there's always the what if. What if he hadn't missed those 3 years for war? What if he hadn't missed 2 more for Korea? What if we'd seen the entire arc of his prime uninterrupted? Even so, He retired with 521 home runs, a .63 for slugging percentage, and a WAR of 121.8, the 11th highest in history. Ted Williams wasn't just the best hitter of his generation. He might have been the best hitter ever. And the more we measure, the more we analyze, the more his numbers look like prophecy. He wasn't chasing stats. He was chasing the perfect swing, and honestly, he might have found it. If Ted Williams was the science of hitting, then Mariano Rivera was the art of finishing, the final word, the closer of closers. He didn't just pitch the ninth, he owned it. While most pitchers needed velocity, deception, and an arsenal of pitches, Rivera built an empire with one, the cutter. Everyone knew it was coming. Everyone knew where it would break, and yet no one could touch it. It shattered bats like dry twigs. It broke hitters' hearts, and it made Mariano Rivera arguably the most feared and effective relief pitcher in baseball history. His stats are almost supernatural. 650 to career saves, the most ever, a career era to point to one, a WHIP of 1.00 across 19 seasons, and perhaps most absurd of all, a career era plus of 205. That's not just good, it means he was 105% better than the average pitcher over the decades. But his dominance wasn't just statistical, it was surgical. Rivera wasn't just effective. He was cold-blooded. The Yankees could be up by one. The crowd could be pulsing with tension, and the moment Mo jogged in from the bullpen to enter Sandman, the game was over. That wasn't confidence. That was certainty, and his postseason resumed legendary. In 141 playoff innings, Rivera posted a 0.70 ERA. That's not a typo. That's the greatest pressure pitcher of all time, being nearly unhittable when it mattered most. He helped the Yankees win 5 World Series, anchored their late 90s dynasty, and was named 1999 World Series MVP. And through it all, he was unshakable. No theatrics, no fist-pumping rage, just calm, poise, and a cutter that whispered, "Game over." Rivera's career spanned generations. He retired at 43, still effective, still feared. And when his name came up for Hall of Fame voting, the verdict was unanimous, literally. Mariano Rivera became the first player in MLB history to receive 100% of the votes. That's not just to record its reverence, because Rivera didn't just play the ninth inning. He redefined it. He made the final out feel inevitable, and he did it with less velocity, less flash, and more efficiency than anyone before or since. In a game that so often spirals into chaos, Rivera was the silence that followed the storm. Precise, perfect, untouchable. If Rivera closed games with ice in his veins, then Barry Bonds played every inning like his bat was dipped in fire. No player in baseball history, before or since, has made pitchers more afraid to pitch. He wasn't just dominant, he was distorting. Bonds didn't bend the game around himself, he snapped it in half. By the time he finished his career, he had broken the most coveted offensive record of them all, 760 home runs. But that number is only the loudest of many. Bonds is also the all-time leader in walks, 2,558, intentional walks, 688, and single-season home runs, 73. In 2004, he was walked 130 times. That's an entire career's worth of walks for some players condensed into 1 year. Why? Because pitchers refused to give him anything to hit, and they were right. If they missed, it left the park. But here's what people forget. Bonds was already an elite player, long before the home run explosion. In his first 15 seasons before the steroid whispers, he averaged 33 home runs, a .41 to OBP, and 7 for WAR per season. He was winning MVPs before his hat size became a debate topic. He could hit, field, and run. He earned 8 gold gloves. He wasn't just powerful, he was complete. But once the 2000s hit, Bonds transformed into something else, something unpitchable. In 2001, at 36 years old, he hit 73 home runs, obliterating Mark McGwire's record. He posted a .863 slugging percentage and an OPS of 1.379. Numbers like that aren't just good, they're unreal. Bonds didn't just hit better than anyone else, he hit better than entire teams. And then came the shadow, the allegations, the investigations, the hearings, and suddenly the conversation shifted from awe to skepticism. But here's the thing, even without the Pez, Bonds was already Hall of Fame bound. His first 15 years alone would have put him in Cooperstown. The added power may have lifted him into orbit, but he was already soaring. And maybe that's why his career remains one of the most polarizing in sports, because Bonds represents the best of baseball's evolution and the worst of its compromises. He is both record breaker and cautionary tale, both unmasked and unloved. But regardless of how you feel about him, one truth remains. No one has ever been better at making a baseball disappear, and no one has ever made the strike zone look so small. If Barry Bonds was a controversy wrapped in greatness, then Tom Seaver was greatness wrapped in principle. Tom Terrific didn't need scandals, spectacle, or headlines to command respect. He did it the old-fashioned way, through absolute dominance and an unrelenting standard of excellence. When Seaver stepped on the mound, it wasn't flair, it was execution. Every pitch had purpose, every inning had gravity. And for the New York Mets, he wasn't just an ace, he was a revolution. In 1967, Seaver burst into the league with a Rookie of the Year award and a 2.76 ERA over 151 innings. And that was just the beginning. 2 years later, he led the Miracle Mets to their first World Series title, transforming a team once viewed as a joke into world champions. Seaver was the cornerstone of one of baseball's greatest underdog stories, but he didn't stop there. Across his first 9 seasons with the Mets, Seaver racked up 3 Cy Young awards, led the league in ERA multiple times, and notched 168 wins. By age 30, he already had 65.8 career WAR. Let that sink in. He was producing like a Hall of Famer before most pitchers even reached their primes. And when contract disputes led to his shocking departure in the 1977 Midnight Massacre, it wasn't just a trade, it was a betrayal. Mets fans wept, ownership was blasted, and Seaver, he just kept pitching. In Cincinnati, he remained elite. He threw a no-hitter. He piled on wins. He aged with dignity, precision, and ferocity. He didn't need to throw 100. He needed a plan, and he executed that plan to perfection. Over a 20-year career, Seaver tallied 311 wins, 3,640 strikeouts, 8.86 ERA, and a career WAR of 109.9. He wasn't flashy, but he was relentless. He wasn't a celebrity, but he was a giant. He made every team he touched better. Every game he pitched mattered. And when he finally hung up his spikes, he left the game not just as a legend but as a standard. Tom Seaver wasn't baseball's loudest voice, but he was its conscience. His legacy isn't just built on numbers, it's built on how those numbers were earned. With craft, with class, with clarity. In an era filled with characters, Tom Seaver was a constant. The kind of pitcher every team dreams of, but rarely gets, the kind who makes losing feel impossible. While Tom Seaver delivered consistency with surgical grace, Hank Aaron delivered something even rarer, quiet greatness. In a world obsessed with noise, Aaron let his bat do the talking, and it spoke with thunder. Known as Hammer and Hank, he didn't seek attention, but he couldn't hide from history. By the time he retired, he wasn't just a Hall of Famer, he was a symbol. Aaron is most famous, of course, for breaking Babe Ruth's career home run record, finishing with 755 long balls, a record that stood for 33 years. But that one stat barely scratches the surface of what made him legendary. He hit at least 24 home runs in 19 straight seasons. That level of consistency is more than impressive, it's mythic. But here's the deeper magic. Even if you remove all 755 of his home runs, Aaron would still have over 3,000 hits. That's how complete a hitter he was. His final stat line reads like a Hall of Fame resume multiplied by 10. 2,197 RB is the most ever. 6,856 total bases, also the most ever. 1,477 extra base hits, you guessed it, most ever. And 3,771 hits. His slash line .305, .374, .555 was delivered over 23 seasons. No long slumps, no fall-offs, just production, year after year. And while many legends dominate a decade, Aaron dominated 3. But the numbers alone don't capture the courage. Aaron didn't chase Ruth's record in a vacuum. He did it while receiving death threats, hate mail, racial slurs. As he closed in on the record in the early 70s, America's deep wounds were on full display, but Aaron never flinched. He kept swinging, and on April 8, 1974, he hit 715, and in doing so, redefined what a black man could be in American sports. He didn't just pass Ruth, he passed a cultural threshold, and he did it without arrogance, without spectacle, just grace. In all, he made 25 All-Star appearances, another record. His career wore a staggering 143.2, placing him behind only Ruth, Bonds, Mays, and Cobb. And in 1999, MLB created the Hank Aaron Award, given to the league's best offensive player, because no one better represents excellence without ego. For all the noise that surrounds baseball's biggest stars, Hank Aaron remains a quiet storm. Devastating, steady, respected by all, loved by many, hated only by those who couldn't see past their own hate, and in a game that values tradition. Aaron didn't just fit into the tradition, he became it. While Hank Aaron quietly rewrote the record books, Stan Musial wove his legacy through something equally rare: harmony. The man, as he was nicknamed by Brooklyn fans who feared him and loved him in equal measure, wasn't just a legendary hitter. He was consistency made flesh, over 22 seasons, all with the St. Louis Cardinals. Musial didn't simply perform, he balanced the game. Left-handed slugger, humble warrior, an artist with a bat, and a symbol of what a franchise player was always meant to be. He ended his career with 3,630 hits, 1,815 at home, and 1,815 on the road. That's not just symmetry, that's poetry. Musial's career slash line, 331, .417, .559. In today's era, those numbers would win MVPs annually. But Musial wasn't about peaks, he was about presence. He won 3 MVPs. He earned 20 for All-Star selections in 22 seasons. Yes, there were the All-Star games per year for a stretch. He led the league in batting average 7 times. He hit over .300 in all but 4 seasons, and those came at the very end of his career. This wasn't someone who flirted with greatness. He lived in it. Musial was the offensive engine of the Cardinals dynasty, helping them win 3 World Series titles in the 40s. And he wasn't just a line drive machine, he had power for 175 home runs, 3rd all-time in doubles, top 20 in both singles and triples. That kind of breadth across all hitting categories, only one other player in MLB history matches it, Willie Mays. But Musial's impact wasn't just statistical, it was cultural. While others postured or self-promoted, Musial smiled, played his harmonica, signed autographs, raised his kids in St. Louis, and stayed. No scandals, no feuds, just loyalty. He was beloved not just for what he did, but how he did it. If Aaron was baseball's conscience, Musial was its soul, the everyman who just happened to be elite, the franchise player who became a pillar of the franchise. He retired in 1963, his last at-bat a base hit. Of course it was, because Stan Musial didn't fade away. He finished with the same quiet excellence he'd shown for 2 decades, a career WAR of 128.6, a .976 ops, and a reputation that still shines untouched by time. In an era that now markets stars as brands, Musial reminds us of an older truth, that you don't need a spotlight to become unforgettable. You just need consistency, kindness, and a perfect swing. If Stan Musial was the soul of baseball, then Babe Ruth was its spark. He didn't just change the game, he redefined it. Before Ruth, baseball was strategic, slow, and grounded in small ball. After Ruth, it became a spectacle, a show, a game, where one swing could alter history, and that shift began not with a bang, but with a pitch. Because before, he was the most feared slugger of all time. Ruth was one of the best pitchers in the game with the Red Sox. He posted 89 wins and a 2.19 ERA over 6 seasons, leading Boston to 3 World Series titles. He was a legitimate ace, dominating the dead ball era with a fastball that defied hitters. But then came the transformation. Sold to the Yankees in 1919, Ruth unleashed his bat on a league unprepared for what was coming. In 1920, he hit 50 for home runs, more than any other team in baseball that year. He didn't just lead the league, he dwarfed it. By 1927, he raised the bar again, lasting 60 home runs in a single season, a record that would stand for 34 years. And he didn't stop. Over a 22-year career, Ruth massed 714 home runs, held a career slugging percentage of .690, still the highest ever, and put up a 1.16 for career OPS, also still the highest. These aren't just numbers, they're records, carved into granite. He averaged 46 home runs per season during a time when most players were lucky to hit 10. But it wasn't just the power. Ruth had discipline. His OBP was .474. He drew over 1,000 walks, and perhaps most shockingly, he averaged 10.5 WAR per season. For context, 6 WAR is an MVP-level year. Ruth normalized greatness. His career WAR of 180 to .6 is second only to Barry Bonds, and that's without modern training, without dietitians, without pitch labs. But what made Ruth bigger than the game was his persona, the swagger, the laugh, the charisma. He wasn't just a ballplayer, he was America's first sports superstar. Kids copied his stance. Reporters hung on his every word. And the Yankees, they became the franchise because of him. He turned New York into a baseball cathedral. He gave rise to dynasties. He made baseball a business, and yet, behind the fame, there was the bat, heavy, powerful, swinging through air with a violence. That changed everything. Babe Ruth made pitchers question their careers. He made fans believe in miracles. And he made history feel reachable with every at-bat. When he retired, he didn't just leave a legacy. He left a blueprint for greatness that everyone since has tried and failed to match. If Babe Ruth set the template for superstardom, then Greg Maddux broke it quietly, methodically, with the kind of brilliance that didn't scream for attention but demanded respect. In a world obsessed with velocity, Maddux reminded us that intelligence could be just as lethal. He didn't overpower hitters, he outhot them. While the rest of the league chased radar gun readings, Maddux chased the edges of the plate, and he found them, over and over, with surgical precision. His fastball barely touched 90 miles per hour, but his command, legendary. He threw pitches that looked hittable until they weren't. He'd bait hitters into swinging at pitches they thought they wanted, and then walk off the mound before the umpire even made the call. That's the Maddux way, in the heart of the steroid era, when hitters were bigger, stronger, and meaner. Greg Maddux posted a 1.98 ERA over for seasons from 1992 to 1995. He won the Cy Young Award all 4 years. That's not just dominance, it's defiance. He went 75 to 29 over that stretch, pitched deep into games, and never blinked. But his control wasn't just about walks. It was about tempo, about disrupting hitters' timing, about knowing a batter better than the batter knew himself. Maddux once let Jeff Bagwell homer off him on purpose, just so he could exploit that memory in the postseason. That's not a baseball move, that's chess. Across his 23-year career, Maddux won 355 games. He struck out over 3,000, and he won 18 Gold Gloves, the most by any pitcher ever. He wasn't just a pitcher, he was a defender, a thinker, a quiet storm. His teammates described him as shy, unassuming, almost invisible in the clubhouse. But give him a baseball, and he became something else entirely, a master tactician who saw the game 3 steps ahead. He made opposing hitters look foolish, and he did it with a smirk, not a roar. And that's what makes him so unforgettable. In a sport increasingly driven by spectacle, Greg Maddux was the anti-hero, the professor with a game plan. The guy who looked like he should be grading papers, not embarrassing MVPs. He didn't chase legacy. He let it build around him, and by the time he walked off the mound for the last time, he had become something rare in modern baseball. Proof that mental dominance is every bit as powerful as physical might. Where Greg Maddux used intellect to pick hitters apart, Mickey Mantle brought raw force, lightning speed, and unreal charisma, whirlwind of power and vulnerability wrapped into one iconic swing. If Ruth was the larger-than-life titan of the Roaring '20s, then Mantle was the mythic superstar of post-war America, a player who looked like he was born to be a Yankee and played like he carried every ghost of Yankee Stadium on his back. Mickey Mantle wasn't just a switch hitter. He was the switch hitter, the first and maybe only man in history to hit 150 home runs from each side of the plate. And he didn't just slap the ball over the fence, he annihilated it. Some of the longest home runs ever recorded have Mantle's name on them: 565 feet, 600 feet, maybe longer, and that's without modern tracking tech. These weren't just bombs, they were artillery. But Mantle wasn't just power. He was speed. As a young man, he was considered one of the fastest players in the league, a true five-tool player. And for all the legends, all the hype, Mantle delivered. In 1956, he won the Triple Crown, hitting .353 with 50 home runs and 130 RBIs. That same year, he posted a WAR of 11.2. He was just 24. Over an 18-year career, Mantle racked up 536 home runs, a .298 average, and an OPS of .977. He made 20 All-Star teams in those 18 seasons. He won 3 MVPs. He was a 12-time World Series participant, winning 7 titles, and in October, he became something even greater, a postseason titan. Mantle still holds World Series records for home runs, RBIs, runs scored, total bases, and extra base hits. But his career wasn't just one long celebration. Mantle played through pain. A devastating knee injury as a rookie haunted him for life. He drank too much. He pushed himself too hard. And yet, even as his body betrayed him, his numbers soared. He played through agony and still dominated. That duality of greatness and fragility is what made him unforgettable. He wasn't perfect. He was human. But in those moments, when he connected, when the ball soared into the night sky at Yankee Stadium, he looked immortal. Mantle was the golden boy with steel in his swing, the heir to Ruth and Gehrig, the one who made kids dream and pitchers despair. And when you talk about baseball's most iconic figures, his name isn't just on the list. It's carved into the foundation. If Mickey Mantle symbolized the flash and fire of the Yankees dynasty, then Willie Mays was baseball's complete symphony: power, speed, defense, grace, swagger, and joy, all wrapped in one transcendent player. Mays didn't just do everything, he did everything better than almost everyone who ever lived. To call him a five-tool player almost undersells it. He wasn't just checking boxes, he was dominating every single category. Home runs, 660. Batting average, .301. Gold Gloves, 12. Straight stolen bases, 338, and that's in an era when steals weren't the priority. Mays didn't just impact games, he took them over. From his very first season in 1951, it was clear the game was about to change. By 1954, he led the league in batting average, 345, slugging, and OPS. That year, he made the catch, you know the one, deep in center field at the Polo Grounds, over the shoulder, had flying off, then spinning and gunning the ball back to the infield like a human slingshot. That moment wasn't just a highlight, it was a cultural landmark. It was the play that defined postseason defense forever. But Willie wasn't a highlight player. He was a season-to-season juggernaut. He hit 50-plus homers twice, had over 190 hits in 6 different seasons. Won the MVP, should have won more, made 20 for All-Star appearances. He led the league in home runs 4 times and in the outfield. He was an artist, a wall crasher, a ball hawk with circus timing. His defense was ballet with spikes, and here's the thing, Mays didn't take plays off. He ran everything out. He played the game like it mattered even when it didn't. That's why he remains the gold standard for all-around greatness. He wasn't just an offensive machine or a defensive genius. He was both on the same day, every day. He played with a joy that leapt through the radio, lit up the scoreboard, and etched itself into baseball lore. When Mays retired, he left the game with 156.1 WAR third all-time, behind only Ruth and Bonds, his godson. And he didn't need controversy or narrative spin to get there. He just played, hard, smart, with style, and with a grin that told every fan, you were watching something special. In a game often defined by specialist hitters who can't field, pitchers who can't hit, Willie Mays stands alone, the perfect player, the walking, running, leaping embodiment of baseball's purest form, not just a legend, the blueprint. And then there's Ken Griffey Jr., the perfect finale to this lineup of legends. Because Jr. wasn't just a player, he was a movement, a smile under a backwards cap, a swing so beautiful it looked like poetry in motion. Griffey wasn't trying to be cool, he was cool, and he played like the game was built for him, and maybe, in a way, it was. From the moment he debuted with the Seattle Mariners as a teenager, Griffey electrified the sport. He made center field his. He made robbing home runs routine, and his swing left-handed, silky, and possibly fast became a signature. Even today, no swing is more imitated, and almost none are as effective. In his first 11 seasons, all with Seattle, Griffey averaged 40 home runs per 160 games, earned 10 straight Gold Gloves, 10 All-Star selections, and 7 Silver Sluggers. He led the American League in home runs for times. In 1997, he won the MVP with 56 home runs, 147 RBIs, and a WAR of 9.1. And he did it all while patrolling center field like a linebacker with ballet training. He wasn't just a slugger. He was a five-tool monster. Then came the injuries. The tragic irony of Griffey's career is that his body couldn't keep up with his greatness. Hamstring tears, surgeries, time lost. But even so, he finished with 630 home runs, 7th all-time, a .28 for average, a .907 ops, and countless moments burned into memory. Diving catches, wall climbs, that perfect home run trot, and of course, the moment Griffey scoring the winning run in the 1995 Alts, arms outstretched, joy etched into every frame. That wasn't just a win for the Mariners. It was a win for baseball. Griffey didn't just carry a team, he saved a franchise. He turned a small market team into a contender. He made Seattle matter. And when he was traded to Cincinnati, he carried his greatness across leagues, across expectations, across adversity. He wasn't chasing glory. He was glory. And when he finally retired, baseball felt the absence immediately. Because Griffey was the rare player who transcended team colors. Kids who didn't even root for the Mariners still wore his jersey. They still do. He entered the Hall of Fame with the highest voting percentage ever at the time. No scandals, no whispers, just respect. Because Ken Griffey Jr. reminded us that sometimes the game can be magic, that talent can meet joy, that a swing can be a gift, and that greatness doesn't always need noise, it just needs grace. Asterisk, these legends didn't just fill stat sheets, they shaped eras. They didn't just break records, they bent the game to their will. Each one brought something uniquely powerful. Ichiro's elegance, Ripken's resolve, Ryan's fire, Henderson's chaos, Williams' science, Rivera's finality, Bond's dominance, Seaver's integrity, Aaron's grace, Musial's soul, Ruth's revolution, Maddox's genius, Mantl's myth, May's completeness, Griffey's magic. Baseball isn't just about who had the best numbers, it's about who changed the meaning of greatness. And these players didn't just play the game, they defined it.